All right. So Mataji, can I get started?
Yes, Mataji, I already started recording.
Okay, great. So can we all get started with our prayers? If you all can turn on your videos, that would be good to look at you all. Okay. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhashai Tadeshatharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you. Just 1 minute.
Why my co-host and not you?
What happened?
I am co-host, but you're not co-host.
Oh yeah, you can change. If you can make me co-host, that'll be good. Otherwise also no problem because I'm not going to share anything. So it's okay. Either ways, it's fine.
Mataji, sorry, it's by mistake. Krishna Chaitanya became co-host. No problem. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu. Krishna Chaitanya, I'll take out, okay?
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, 1 second, Mataji. 1 second. Sorry, just wanted to make sure that, okay. All right, so we can get started with our topic. So it's a general topic. So we can have a lot of interactive sessions and interactive question and answer discussion, sort of to make it entertaining. So let me start with the topic. So as you all know, how can bhakti change our memory, or how can bhakti have a positive influence on us? So this is the topic we have chosen for today. So if you look at Bhakti Yoga, it is a process by which Krishna brings perfection out of imperfection. So now sometimes people ask, right? Why do we keep chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare? Why do we keep doing it over and over and again and again and again? What is going to happen by this? You keep doing the same activity again and again. How does it make a difference? How does it change oneself? Right? These are some questions that we normally get. Isn't it enough if we just chant once? Why do we keep repeating this process of chanting the glories of the holy name of the Lord? What is going to happen? You keep, see, some people ask, right? You keep doing the same activity again and again and again. Have you discussed this with your friends, or have you been asked this question, and what was your response? I mean, I can start off with that discussion, and then I can tell you my viewpoints as to what Shastras say. Is that a good idea, or do you want me to tell me my point as to what the Shastra says, and then we can have a discussion? I'm okay either ways. How do you want to proceed?
I understand. What are the two ways?
Either of the two ways is okay with you?
No, I understand what the two ways are.
Oh, the two ways are meaning you start off with a discussion saying, okay, here are the reasons why we do this process of chanting the whole glories of the holy names of the Lord again and again. What is the reason from your perspective? Or I can start off with the discussion. I can discuss the viewpoints from Shastra, and then you can then supplement to it. How do you want to go about?
I don't know about others, but I'd like you to do it.
Okay.
Not other people.
Yeah. Anybody has any opinions or thoughts? How do you want to go about?
I agree with
I
Krishna
agree.
Chaitanya.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
Okay, so all of you all want me to go ahead first? Okay.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, all right. So what happens here is that our Shastras say Bhakti Yoga reconditions us. Then how does it recondition us? What is this reconditioning? It changes us in three ways. What are the three ways? First one is repetition. Repetition is the first way it reconditions us. The second way is purification. And the third thing is revelation. So now we are going to talk about what is repetition. So I don't know how long this discussion might go. If you're not able to complete this activity today, then we can do it in the next class as a continuation. But I want us to have this interactive question and answer session so that we better understand this topic. Okay? So what is this repetition? So that's the first thing we are going to understand. Say, for example, let's take a mundane example, right? So we all have our laptops. So say, for example, I repeatedly go to a particular site. Maybe for example purposes, I can use yahoo.com or some news channel, MSN News, or whatever that channel is. I repeatedly go to that website. And as soon as I type in my browser, what happens? It just autofills and completes it, right? That is what happens. It has become habituated to it because I have done this repeatedly, and that is the reason why it auto-completes it. But if I decide, okay, I don't want to spend time in the news, it's just mundane news. Instead, let me go to another site. Then I say, okay, ISKCON news or something like that. Again, if I just click, so again and again, over a period of time, instead of India news, if I keep repeating this ISKCON news over and over again and again in the browser, what happens? ISKCON news is going to get autocomplete, right? So just as in a computer also, when the choice is made repeatedly, then the autofill happens automatically. Say, for example, you fill a form, and when you use your address as the default option in every form you fill, then the address option is always autofilled, right? You don't even have to type it. It just comes as an option and you click it and it's all done and you submit the form. So this is the process of repetition. And so again, what is the thing here? What is the point of this repetition and why do we do repetition is the question that we need to understand, right? And I'm going to elaborate you on that. So whatever choice you have done recently, that is more likely to come. Sometimes we feel we have so many negative conditionings. If you all look at us, we have so many bad habits, right? Then the bad habits, they keep troubling us, right? It is because, say, for example, a person is an angry person. This anger comes to him very naturally, like how the ISKCON news or India news comes as an autofill. Anger comes as a habit to us naturally. It doesn't take any effort. It becomes our nature. As soon as somebody provokes us, we get angry, we show our symptoms, we start fist fighting with them, we start using bad words. All that, whatever is not required of you, you are going to show it out because it becomes your nature. This is where bhakti comes into play. This is where bhakti is going to help us. Oh, Mataji, how is it going to help us? I have this nature and autofill automatically works, right? How are you going to erase what is there as my habit? How is this possible? You may ask, right? It's a genuine question. Are you all having this question now? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes. So what happens is in the process of bhakti, when we keep repeatedly doing the same thing again and again and again, the sheer power of repetition creates a new pattern in our brain. There is a new pattern that gets created in our brain. Many people may get habituated, right? If you look at them, they come to the home, they come from work, right? They are very exhausted. What do? They immediately, if there is a TV on, they turn on the TV as an entertainment. that becomes their habit. Or say, for example, a person may not have TV these days. YouTube is there in the computer or YouTube is there in the phone, and that is also equivalent to a TV. And what happens? This person who comes back from the office, he just turns on the YouTube channel, whatever it might be. It has now become the habit. So a good thing. So the thing is, the habit is the habit for. If you look at habit as such, it is content neutral, meaning you can either create a good habit out of it or bad habit out of it. Meaning, if the content is bad, it will create bad habit. But if the content is good, then it is going to create good habit. So it works both ways. So the habits are content neutral, meaning whatever, say for example, your parents, I don't know, because you're all teenagers now, you may not, you know what is good and bad. But then I'm just generally saying, if your parent says, don't watch this particular YouTube channel, go and watch devotional channel or go and watch some ISKCON related channel, then they are creating good habit in you. They want you to avoid whatever content is bad, because habit, as I told you, is content neutral. So they want to have a good habit. Say they want to create a good habit in you so that you are attracted more and more and more to the devotional channels rather than material, whatever mundane channel that you have. So whatever we do repeatedly, that will become a habit. And habit is content neutral, meaning you can either create a bad habit by watching bad content, or you can create a good habit by watching good content. So this is what is the scenario right now. So right now we have seen how repetition becomes a habit. By repeatedly doing things, it will actually become a habit. And this process of bhakti, it is going to create new pattern in our brain. So now, by the sheer power of repetition, what happens here is that one becomes habituated doing something. So what we do, we tend to do, and that applies to our mind also. So the repetition is not the only thing that happens in Bhakti Yoga. There are so many dimensions to it. As I told you, when you repeatedly chant the holy names of the Lord, what you're doing is you're actually coming in contact with the Lord. So every day we are all chanting, right? What happens through the process of chanting? Repeatedly we are coming in contact with the auspicious person on this whole universe, and he is Lord Krishna, who's the supreme personality of Godhead. So when you are going to have, then see, for even in a mundane example, if you have good association, you are going to become good. But if you have association with a person like Krishna, who's the supreme personality of Godhead, won't you become a great person? Right? Isn't it logical? Even from that perspective, isn't it logical? What do you all say?
Yes.
Isn't it? So every day we are all chanting. We are all brushing a rusty knife to remove the rust on it. So one level, it may seem like as if you're taking the knife and you're rubbing against it. On another level, if you look at mantra meditation, our mind becomes calmer. It becomes clearer. It becomes more focused. That is what happens. Like a sharp mind, what it can do, it can cut through situations, because whatever we are facing in our life is so complicated. If we have a calm disposition, then we can handle any kind of problem that we face, right? It's definitely logical for us to think it that way, right? I mean, if unlike a person who's always in anxiety, if some problem comes to him, a person in a mode of ignorance, he will go, oh, my solution is now I'm having a problem. I should just go and drink a couple of drinks and just get through my problem. And again, by drinking, he is going to create more problems, because the consequences it is going to lead to, we really don't know. He might trouble a person unnecessarily. He may meet with an accident, or he might hit a guy. Who knows what he's doing? So in that process, he's actually creating more trouble for himself. But you look at a person who's sattvic, who's calm, who's very composed, who's not in anxiety mode. That person, he can think through the problems. He can understand the situation, and he'll be able to provide with a clear mindset as to what is right and what is wrong. Isn't it? Are you all agreeing with me so far?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes,
Mataji.
Okay. So we need to have our mind sharp so that we can penetrate through and dive into the problem, understand what I should do about this problem and what I should not. You will be able to clearly think through the consequences. The main thing is, if you are having a problem, you should be able to think through. If you take this action, then what is the consequence of that action? Say, for example, an angry person, he just spits out some bad words, which is not at all favorable for Krishna consciousness. After he does that, you all know what the consequences are. This person, whoever he scolded, if he's a Vaishnava, then he's actually creating aparadh. He's actually creating an offense, right? And that is not a good idea. So we should definitely have our temper controlled, or we should be in a calm disposition. And for that, mantra meditation helps. That is the reason we need to have, because of this, new impressions are getting created. And we all know from our previous births, so many births, it's just not, we cannot count the number of births we have had. So many impressions have been created. The material impressions are innumerable. And these material impressions have to be converted, right? And this can be done only through the process of bhakti. Those impressions have to be changed with our new bhakti impressions. And when we get more of the bhakti impressions on our mind, then whatever decision we make, it is coming from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. That is the way we are able to make intelligent decisions. Intelligence means it's not material intelligence, it is spiritual intelligence. When you make spiritual intelligence, when you use your spiritual intelligence, you can never go wrong. Shabda Praman can never go wrong. So that way we will be in the right path. Are you all able to understand the first point on repetition? That's the first theme that we saw today. Are you all clear with that? Any questions?
So you repeat your association with certain things.
What is that, Krishna Chaitanya?
You repeat your association with certain things, or so like not just people, but also things.
Yes,
Area.
absolutely. Association with the things, association with people, what you do every day, all this comes into repetition. When you actually want to create a habit, you have to think, what am I indulging in? Is it good? Is it bad? What are the consequences of it? You should be able to see and then decide through it. Like right now, we are all into Krishna conscious class, which is very good. And this is going to help you take decisions in your life and make intelligent choices in your life. And that is what we should ultimately strive for. Even the association we are having right now is a good association, because it is going to help you progress in Krishna consciousness. Right? Whatever is favorable for Krishna consciousness, you should take it up. And whatever is unfavorable, we should leave. Okay, that is the principles of surrender. There are 6 principles. Out of this, the 2 principles that we talked about right now, whatever is favorable, we should take it, and whatever is unfavorable, we should reject it. Okay. And do you want to share what all you come across as good favorable associations? Like, it could be anything. It could be a Ratha Yatra celebration that you participated, or it could be a Vaishnava Seva that you were involved in. So what all do you do to get this process of bhakti? Where do you get the nourishment from? Can you all share your experiences?
Mataji, can you repeat the question real quick? I was breaking up.
Oh, no problem. So my question is, what are all the favorable associations that you get in your everyday life?
Mommy.
If you look at your,
Mommy.
yeah.
Door
So what are all your
closing.
favorite? I'm sorry, Anshu, can you mute dear? So what are all your favorable associations that you get? I mean, I mentioned a few examples like Ratha Yatra that you participate, or Vaishnava Seva that you involve in, or it could be the learnings like Sanskrit, Vaishnava songs, or any other devotional activities that you participate. How do you get your association, and what do you do to nourish that association?
I get a lot of devotee friends, because then you can
have a-
share some, like, Krishna's pastimes and with them.
Uh-huh.
Have a devotee association, or like like association of like Krishna's, like the holy name can also purify you,
Yes.
even if you're like very sinful.
Yes. So Asra, I've seen you in Facebook. So with your mom, you do perform Harinam Sankirtan, right? That is so glorifying. And that act, the chanting of the glories of the holy name of the Lord with everybody, with your family, that is Sankirtana Yajna. And that process is very, very purifying. Asra, I totally agree with you. Thank you. And thank you for spreading the name. And anybody else wants to share their experience as to how they get their nourishment?
Listening to classes and repeatedly listening like Krishna, about Krishna.
Yes. And so there might be a question that can come to you, right? Oh, this, I know the story. I know the story of Kamsa killing, Krishna killing Kamsa. What's so new about it? Every time they're talking about the same thing. Have you all felt like that any day? Did you all feel that, or did you all go through that phase where you felt as if, oh, I know it, but oh, come on, can they not talk something else?
Yeah.
Yeah, so right. And what happens is, for that, our acharyas say, see, these pastimes of Krishna, so even though we think we know it, we may not know it. Okay, it might be just the theoretical understanding that we have right now of whatever pastimes have been taking place on Krishna's end. But then, as we keenly listen and start the shabd, with absorption, if you start to listen Krishna Katha, then more revelations will come to you, it seems. More and more revelations will come to you. And in that process, the purification will happen to you. That is the reason why even after 20 years, if you see people listening to Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, see in 20 years, they might have just, don't you think they might just have squared away everything? They know it in the tip of their fingers. It's normal to think like that, right? But these devotees, they feel that they get newer and newer realizations. And that is the reason they always are curious, as if they are hearing it for the first time, they will hear with rapt attention. Okay, and in that process, Krishna will be so pleased with you. See, this boy is so eager listening to me, and I feel like I should give him something in return. And that's where the mercy flows in. Mercy from Krishna, it comes to you. Okay, so that process of hearing is so purifying. Anything for that matter, pastimes, glories of the holy name, the Vaishnava songs, all these are purifying. So never in our life, because see, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, you listen to a different speaker, the different speaker may have something else to offer for you, and that you'll feel like, oh, I didn't know this before. Oh, this is good. Now that I have a new realization. And that realization, that is now a theoretical realization, right? Till we actually apply it in our life and imbibe it in our life, it is not a realization as such. It's just theoretical, right? You may still get angry. You may still have those anarthas, greed, anger, lust, and all that. So the realization actually comes when we start to apply it and follow it through our lives. So till then we have to, till we perfect, even after perfection. So if you look at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he listened to the same pastime of Dhruva 100 times, right? It is always, it is all that, because that feeling is different. So once you start getting the attachment and the rasa, then the feeling is entirely different. Okay, Krishna Chaitanya. I know that all of you all might have come into the situation. That's why I wanted to bring this point up. Any further
Mataji, there is a question by Radha. Can you go to the
okay.
chat?
Oh, I didn't see the chat, Mataji. Okay, as a teen. Oh, I'm sorry, it's a private message. Is it okay to read?
No, this is Radha. She said to everyone. Oh, direct message. Okay. Okay. As a teen, I struggle with saying curse word, and I try my best not to. In Christianity, it is a sin to curse. Is it also in ISKCON?
Okay, so very important point you bring up. Say, for example, if you look at Shringi, right? Shringi was a Brahmana and he happened to curse Parikshit Maharaj. We all know the story. And Shringi cursed Parikshit Maharaj, because of which Parikshit Maharaj was going to die. And this has happened in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Parikshit Maharaj, if you note, he did not retaliate to the sin. Instead, he went ahead with the sin. And he said, okay, no problem. I will take care of the sin. I mean, whatever, it is all God's will. And if I have to die, it is God's will. So I accept it. That was in those times. Those times people were so austere. They were following through the process very, very strictly, because of which a curse or a blessing might work. But in this age of Kali Yuga, people are not so austere. They are not sincere. So if somebody curses, it's not necessary that that curse will work. Okay, the curse has a power only when you are austere, when you are following the process. I mean, even for that matter, any devotee, if he is so austere, if he follows the 4 regs, and that way they accumulate those credits, because of which a curse can come true. But on the other hand, if you look at it, if the person who curses, he doesn't know what it is. I mean, out of ignorance, he is cursing. Even if you look at Shringi, he is cursing out of ignorance. At the same time, in the material world, if people are not knowledgeable about the scriptures, they would just blaspheme, they will curse and all that. We should not take that seriously, because that is not going to give any impact on it is not going to create any impact on us. Because that person cursed, I'm not going to become a beggar. If he says I will become a beggar, I will not become a beggar. So you should not take those things seriously, because looking at this, it's just a waste of our time. Why we have to spend time on this person who just cursed me, who is ignorant? We just have to think of him to be ignorant and discard that. Okay, that is what we should do practically. We should not pay too much attention to it. And if your association is not working out, you can leave his association, because we should definitely look for better association. That would be my recommendation. Is that okay?
It's a question from Radha.
Yeah, is it okay, Radha? Oh, you struggle with saying curse words, and I try my best. Okay, you are struggling using curse words. Okay, what happens again? You have to, if you are struggling with the usage of curse words, then you have to start the repetition process that I told you. You have to start, instead of whatever curse word that you're using, you have to start consciously practice. First, consciously practice Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Every time you fall down, instead of, oh, you should just say Krishna. Instead of saying some other word, first consciously try to practice using Krishna as a language. I mean, Krishna in your language rather than that curse word, and slowly you will get over it. It is a question of habit. Anything can be changed. There is nothing that cannot be changed. Through the process of bhakti, anything can be changed. Okay, so consciously start to avoid using the curse words and say Krishna, Krishna, Krishna every time, or Rama, Rama, Rama. Anything that you feel comfortable, say that. And through that process, it will become a habit. And slowly, instead of you'll unconsciously start to say that. Instead of being conscious, then slowly it will become unconscious in you. It will become a part of natural habit in you. Does that answer your question, dear? The thing is, as much as possible, we should avoid using curse words. It is not a question of sin or anything. I mean, why would you want to make that a part of your habit? It's a bad habit. Okay, that's what I would say. Is that okay? I don't hear from you, but you can text me.
She said yes, Mataji. Somehow her message come to me.
Okay,
directly.
good.
Yes.
No problem. No problem.
If Radha, if you say to everyone, message Mataji will see directly. Okay, your message.
Okay. So how to deal with envious people? Very good question. So envy is a prevalent thing here. Even if you are not envious, others are envious, how to actually deal with them, right? That is your question, Lakshmi, if I'm not mistaken. Is that your question? Am I understanding it right? Even if you are not envious, if others are envious upon you, how we can look at it? Okay. Yeah. So the thing is, one thing we need to understand, as devotees, we have the knowledge, right? We know envy is not good, and envy is going to have its own consequences. We are able to see through it. If we are having envy, we won't feel satisfied. We won't be able to concentrate on our japa. We won't be able to concentrate on anything we do for that matter. We will always be envious about that person, and to that envy, we are going to drain our energy. Now, you're not envious, but the other person is envious, and how to look at it, right? That is your question. Say, this person who is envious, he's ignorant. That is why he is envious, right? He is ignorant. He doesn't know about Krishna consciousness. He doesn't know about Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. He doesn't know about how pure devotees react in their life. He doesn't know about any of Krishna's pastimes, because of which he is envious. And because of his ignorance, he is doing it. So we should forget and forgive him. Let him see, Krishna will take care of that person who is envious. He will face his own consequences. If he is going to be envious, whatever the consequences are, he is going to face through it. So we should not unnecessarily contemplate about it, because that person is ignorant. Until he comes in contact with a devotee, or unless you educate him about this, he is not going to turn off. He is not going to listen to you. So what's the point? Why unnecessarily? If he is not going to listen to you, then doesn't matter. We can't do anything about that person. But if he is going to listen to you, then he can change his habit. But either case, Krishna is watching him. As Paramatma, Krishna is watching him. So we don't have to worry about why he is envying upon us. Why is that person not saying I'm good looking? Why is that person not commenting on me? Why, I'm speaking so well, but nobody is saying I'm doing a good job. All this we should not worry about. We should just worry about only one thing. Am I serving Krishna properly? If I'm not serving Krishna, then you should feel unhappy about it. That's the only thing we have to worry about in life. Our service to Krishna, our attachment to Krishna, everything else Krishna will take care of. That's all. That should be practically, if you look at it, that person is doing it out of ignorance. And as long as his ignorance is not gone, he's going to do this. But Krishna is watching him, and let him take care of him. I'm not worried about it. So be it. That's all. That should be our mentality. We should not spend too much time understanding why he's doing, what is the reason, why doing all that business of going after him and understanding him. All that is definitely something that we need to avoid. Does that help, dear? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so can we move on to our next theme for discussion, which is, so first we saw what is repetition, right? Repetition helps us, helps us to create new impressions on our brain. Because there are so many material impressions that are embedded, we need to change all those material impressions to spiritual impressions. And that spiritual impressions is created by the process of chanting of the glories of the holy names of the Lord, by listening to Lord's pastimes, and by involving ourselves into Krishna conscious activities. So this is the first theme we saw. And now we are going to talk about purification, because bhakti gives purification, and we need to understand what is this purification all about. Are you all ready for that theme? It is also very interesting, and I need you
Yes,
to understand.
Mataji.
Okay, good. Aditya, did you have any questions so far?
No,
Okay.
no, Mataji.
So now when we practice bhakti, whatever is impressed on the mind, that cannot be erased. What has impressed has impressed. But what we can do is, those impressions that are, we can push them to the background. See, whatever is impressed on us is impressed. We can't do anything about it. But what we can do is, we can put them to the background. Instead of them coming to the foreground, if we don't want a particular impression on the foreground, then we want to put them on the background. So when we are practicing bhakti, what we are doing is, past impressions are there, but now we are creating new impressions on it. It is like repainting a wall. Okay. So there are material impressions that are there in the mind, but in the practice of bhakti, we can take the darshan of deities, we can participate in the kirtans, we can hear Krishna's message, we can chant his holy names. All these activities are like repainting the mind or putting fresh impressions. But actually, it is even more than that. Okay, see, I just wanted you to understand that concept. So I told you it's like repainting or putting some fresh impressions. But this is again much more than that. This again, you could say is like some kind of repetition, but bhakti does something more, because bhakti connects us with the soul. We all know what the soul is, right? The soul is, we all know the state of the soul also. There is Jivatma and Paramatma, and the soul state is naturally pure. As I told you, the knife's example. So just like a knife is rusted, now the rust is something which isn't applied on the knife, but it is accumulated over a period of time, because of which it is rusted. But when we rub it against some substance, then what happens? The rust comes out. It just comes out. Like when you sharpen, when you increase the sharpness on the knife, then it becomes a nice looking, good looking again. The rust is gone, right? That is what happens with us also. Like that, the soul is originally pure. And when we can connect with Krishna, who's all pure, then the purity of the soul becomes manifest also. Right now, it is all covered because of our material conditioning, it is covered. But the purity of the soul gets manifested when we come in contact with Krishna. Okay, and this is what we need to understand. So what is that? I mean, what is the reason for, what is the goal of our life? The goal of our life is to obviously go back to Krishna. Of course, there is no doubt about it. But then we need to understand we are the soul, right? That is what the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita says, that we are the soul, we are not the body. And what should be our mood? Our mood is servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. That should be our mood. And when we say we realize the soul, we understand that we are the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. That is our understanding. We can't, I mean, that is our Vaishnava way of understanding, I would say. Now, let's understand this further. So, Prabhupada would often say that Krishna consciousness is not an external imposition on the mind. It is a natural state of the soul. So, by contact with Krishna, what happens? What happens when we contact with Krishna? Anybody wants to answer this? When we contact with Krishna, what happens?
We become purified, Mataji.
Huh?
We become
Yes,
purified.
we become purified. How does
Our
that
ignorance goes away.
what is this purification is something we will understand further as I go through the class. But I want you all to understand, yes, absolutely. When we come in contact with Krishna, if whoever comes in contact with Krishna gets purified. So at one level, I would say that we are applying some external impressions. Say for example, whatever was there before, that gets cleansed off. And naturally, now the new impressions are getting embedded. Okay, so that is one way of understanding, as I told you. In the case of a wall doesn't have a natural color. The bricks have some color, but say for example, we paint the wall, then we get the fresh feel. Like that only we are also getting these impressions. Whatever impressions is a new impression that we get. And all those other impressions, where are they going? They are going to the background. Instead of being in the foreground, they are now going to the background. So like that, this purification process helps us understand the nature of the soul. It helps us to understand, okay, you're a person, you need to serve the Lord. That realization comes to us through the process of purification. And in the process of purification, our conditioning also gets removed or cleansed off. So these are some of the advantages of purification. So the way what happens by the process of bhakti is that repetition obviously reconditions us, but the purification is what unconditions us, meaning it removes the conditioning and brings out the natural state of the soul. Okay, are you all able to understand? So what does repetition do? Repetition, it actually reconditions us. And then this purification, it unconditions us, meaning it removes the conditioning that we have and brings out the natural state of the soul. Because as I told you, the soul is now covered because of the conditioning. And if the conditioning is removed, then the natural state of the soul gets revealed to us, right? This process of purification, it removes the conditioning and it brings out the natural state of the soul. Okay. And through the process of repetition, what happens? New impressions get created, because of which reconditioning happens. Are you clear? Because the new condition, new impressions means what? Say, for example, a person is angry all the time. He gets angry. And bhakti, it creates a new impression. And because of which, if that particular anger goes away from him, that is because the newer impression of bhakti tells him, oh, this anger, it's just a waste of time. It drains out your energy. And you feel, because of the false ego, you are trying to act upon anger. It is not at all good for you. So all that you, because of the Krishna Katha, because of the chanting the glories of the holy names of the Lord, through the process of repetition, there is that reconditioning that happens. Okay. And because of that, you don't react in the way that you would normally react. And purification, what does it do? It removes your conditioning and it brings out, you are the soul, you are not the body. It removes that conditioning. Because of the covering, we are not able to relate to the soul. When the conditioning is removed, then you will naturally be able to understand who you are. Are you all clear, kids? These are the two concepts we have seen so far. Are you all clear?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Yes,
you are,
Mataji.
okay. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? Or I can move on to the next topic, next theme.
We can move on, Mataji.
Okay. Okay. So maybe another 10 minutes. Is that right? Another 10 minutes class? I wanted to check on the time. Is it another 10 minutes or 15 minutes? Okay, whatever. All right. So now we are going to talk about lower taste and higher taste. Okay, let's understand that. Narada Muni says that in the first canto of Bhagavatam, that actually for a devotee who has tasted Krishna, anything that is material, it is not going to give him any pleasure at all. Whatever a whatever a devotee may pursue, even if the devotee may pursue them again and again, that person's taste has changed. Say, for example, a person is playing mundane music. If he goes to his friend's house, he listens to that mundane music. And he'll be like, oh, why is it not Krishna's Vrindavan mellows? Or why is it not Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna? Why isn't that playing? Or he might think about a bhajan and he might think, oh, why is that not being played here? It's because his rasa has changed. His taste is changed. And this is Krishna consciousness, right? And slowly we can see that our tastes also change. You will start seeing and identifying yourself only with Krishna conscious related things. Right now, it can be regulated. Your parents may say, do this, do that. But after some time, that will become your nature also. You will start enjoying it. You will start to relish it. You will start to, and then after a point, you will say, oh, I cannot be without listening to it. Even if you go somewhere else, if something else is heard, you will be like, no, this doesn't sound good to me at all. Right? Have you all felt that ever in your life? Or is it still happening?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes. So you're able to definitely identify and relate to it, right? I mean, when you go on drives, when you go out of town, you start to look into the channels, and then immediately you look into this music of Krishna and start playing that, or a bhajan, or something that you can all relate to, right? Instead of playing some mundane music, you start to enjoy Krishna bhajans, Krishna songs, Krishna katha, and all that. That is what is coming from a lower taste to higher taste. And this happens through the process of Krishna consciousness. Higher taste, so what happens is, higher taste, what does it do? It actually decreases the appeal for the lower taste. The option is there for us always. The option will never go away, but the appeal will decrease, meaning you have that as an option, but I don't have any more appeal for it. I don't have any more attraction to that lower stuff. That is what you would say. And also you realize this pleasure that I get out of this particular thing is very, very insignificant. And I don't relish it. So why do I have to chase after it? If I don't enjoy it, then why do I have to chase for it? Right? So that also happens. And gradually when purification happens more and more and more, all the other things, of material things, that becomes less and less attractive. And the lower taste at one point, it will completely disappear. So right now, what you might, we are all maybe in a situation where the option is there, but the appeal is not that good. I mean, you will feel that this particular thing, I don't have any much appeal to it. That's why I don't want to do it. But after some time, what happens is this lower taste completely disappears in your life. That also happens gradually after purification. So you'll be at a point where you'll be given an option and you'll feel like you don't have much appeal to it, but slowly that also will go. I mean, you'll feel that you have completely lost this taste for lower things. Nothing. You don't even have any appeal for it anymore. Sort of that way. So that is what happens with purification, and which is a very good thing. That means you are getting attracted to Krishna more and more and more and more, which is what is a sign. So right now, whenever we listen to some philosophy, we may be overwhelmed. We may, oh, why do I have to understand this philosophy? Why is my mom asking me to do this? Or why should I be involved? What happens is it may taste bitter first. Initially, it might taste bitter because you are still taking medicines. Once when we are cured, what happens? So jaundice person, if he's going to drink a sweet juice, it may taste bitter to him because he has jaundice. But once this jaundice is gone, then if he is taking the same bitter juice, same sweet juice, it will taste sweet to him because he is cured now. So that is what happens. Once our impressions are replaced, once we have the spiritual impressions, once our unconditioning happens, then we will be able to enjoy Krishna more and more and more. Till then, we have to be in the process. We have to be patient. We have to listen to our parents. Just listen to them. After a while, say after 10 years, 12 years, after you all, grow up a little more, then you will be able to enjoy it further. Because by that time, all the anarthas, they may have reduced because you have been practicing it from your birth. So all your anarthas might have gone. In that way, you're going to be enjoying Krishna much more than anybody else. So we need to have patience in Krishna consciousness. It is very, very important. And you all know about Dhruva Maharaj. What about Dhruva Maharaj? He felt the kingdom was like a broken piece of glass. You all know that, right? He wanted he did tapasya because he wanted a kingdom. And when the kingdom came before him, when the Lord came before him, he felt whatever I wished for, it's nothing but a broken piece of glass. That is what he felt. Because why? He was purified by the Lord. Lord gave personal darshan to him, and when he touched him with a conch, he actually got purified. And because of the purification, what happens? The original qualification, the qualities of that particular soul, it remanifests. Whatever qualities we have, they will remanifest. If you look at us, we have 50 qualities that are similar to that of Krishna. But again, they're all in infinitesimal amounts. But when you look at Krishna, he has 64 qualities in full. Okay, but we have only 50 of those qualities, that too in infinitesimal amounts. But when our original qualities are manifest, then what happens? Then we become realized. And that can happen only through the mercy of Lord Krishna. We have to endeavor, but that endeavor should result in Krishna's mercy. Till we keep on endeavoring, we keep on putting our endeavor, but we have to be patient and wait for Krishna to shower his mercy on us. We can't just abruptly say, oh Krishna, I've been doing this for such a long time. You've been really, really slow with me. What's going on? Come on, give me that mercy now. No, we can't do that. Okay, we have to be patient in Krishna consciousness. Maybe this is the first lifetime or second lifetime that we are into Krishna consciousness. And so many lifetimes we have just been materially active, materially gratifying ourselves. So we definitely have to wait. Are you all clear in this concept? And now we have to move on to our next topic, which is revelation. Are you all clear so far?
Yes,
Are you
ma'am.
both?
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Any questions, kids? Any questions or anything that you need to discuss before we move on to our next topic, which is next theme, which is revelation? So, yeah, any questions you can ask me now. Varun, are you clear?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. All right. So no questions. Then I can move on to understand, make you all understand what is revelation. Okay. So now revelation means that Krishna, when we start to practice bhakti, what happens is after we have gone through this purification, Krishna, he starts to reveal his beauty. He starts to reveal his sweetness. When Krishna, he reveals his beauty, he reveals his sweetness to us, then what happens? The taste that we get becomes so sublime, right? How, wow, that is too much, right? We've never experienced that. And when Krishna starts to give his revelation upon us, then we start to feel and understand the taste of Krishna consciousness, right? That is what is revelation. So first is repetition, and then purification, and then there is revelation. So Bhakti Yoga process, it actually reconditions us through these three things. This is what happens. First is repetition, then purification, then revelation. We all know, right, to Narada Muni, when he happened to perform the process of devotional service, in the first canto, we see that Krishna, he revealed just once, and then he just vanquished after that. That was because he wanted to increase that thirst on Narada. He wanted Narada to have intense hankering for him. And that is the reason he just revealed himself once. He showed his fitness. Then after you see that, you're like, I want to have more of that. I want to have more of his darshan. I want to have more of his association. That is when the devotee actually gets into the mode of intense hankering. That's what happened with Narada Muni. Do you all remember that pastime? I think from first canto of Bhagavatam. So we also see from Bhagavad Gita 10.9. Machitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So here Krishna says that those who are devoted to me, they constantly discuss about me and they enlighten each other about me. This is a part of Chatusloki Bhagavad Gita, right? Now, if you look at this verse and understand this verse, he says, those who wholeheartedly worship me, if you look at another verse, Agam Sarvasya Prabhuvo Matta Sarvam Pravartate, Iti Matva Bhajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha. So he says, wholeheartedly people worship me. They are Buddha. Now, Buddha is the one who is enlightened. So Krishna is saying, people are enlightened. Then in the next verse, they are saying, the enlightened people also talk about me. What does that mean? Why do they need to enlighten each other? The point is, Krishna's glories, as I told you, it's unlimited. And because they are unlimited, we can unlimitedly relish them. These enlightened devotees, they become even more enlightened by hearing about Krishna, then discussing with each other. That makes them even more enlightened. That's what happens with these devotees. As I told you, you might be hearing the story, but new realizations come to them. And these devotees, if they are so exalted, and when they discuss Krishna Katha, they become more enlightened by doing this. So one devotee, say for example, he is appreciating Krishna from one perspective. Another devotee, he is appreciating Krishna from another perspective. Another devotee, another perspective. In this way, all of them are like, oh, new things you're saying. This devotee is saying one thing, that devotee is saying another thing. This particular, oh, what is going on here? I never thought it about that. I never thought about it from that perspective. This is what happens when we start discussing the glories of Krishna Katha with each other. With enlightened devotees, if you start to discuss with them, then you will completely relish. That is why they are saying you should hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, from people who have realized knowledge, right? That perspective itself will be completely different. So one devotee, so that is what I told you. This verses from Bhagavad Gita, that is 10.9, which talks about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saying that it is eternally attractive, and the devotees, they get pleased when Krishna actually reveals his form, beauty, and after seeing Krishna's beauty, how will this material world seem to be attractive to that person? Material world will be so insignificant. He'll just say like, oh, this is nothing in front of Krishna's beauty. And there was I think a disciple of Prabhupada. He was actually looking at a woman, and he was admiring her. He was like just looking at her beauty, and he was actually admiring her. And Srila Prabhupada, he happened to look at this person who is looking at disciple looking at that lady, and he said, "Oh, that girl is beautiful, right?" And the disciple was like, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, yes, that girl is beautiful. Think of, if the creation itself is so beautiful, think about the creator, how beautiful he will be." So in that situation also, he wanted that person to think about the creator, who is Lord Krishna. So if you look at something in this material world, and if you think that is beautiful, then you have to go back to the creator and understand how beautiful he is, how beautiful he should be. And everything is nothing but a spark of the splendor of me. That is what Krishna says in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So whatever we see in this material world is also a spark of Krishna's beauty. Spark, just a spark, nothing but a spark. So you can imagine how, when the revelation happens, how people will start to enjoy. And that is why we are Satchitananda, right? The soul is always happy. And once that revelation happens, we will always be eternally happy. It is not like the temporary happiness which comes and goes. But when we connect with Krishna, our happiness will be eternal. So with this, I would like to stop. So there are 3 things that we learned today. How bhakti actually, first thing the bhakti does to us through the process of repetition, what happens is new impressions get created. And then the second thing that happens with bhakti is that purification happens, through which unconditioning takes place, and we are able to realize the nature of the soul. And the third thing that happens is that through the process of bhakti, revelation happens to the devotee of the Lord, where he is able to relish the glories of the holy name, relish the sweetness of Krishna, relish the form of Krishna, and so on and so forth. So this is what bhakti has to offer us. So without bhakti, our life will be definitely a waste. So the human form of life is precious, and we have to utilize it in Krishna consciousness. Hope it helped all of you. Hope this class helped you. And if you have anything to share, you can share. In terms of realizations, in terms of anything, takeaways, whatever you want to share, you can share, all of you. Or if you have questions, you can post your questions. That's also fine with me.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So I actually have a few realizations. I don't know if they're like fully related to today's class, but I wanted to share them.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Asra.
So 1 minute, Mataji, I'll close the door. So one of them was like kind of on how association and everything that you were talking about today. I was listening to Radha Maharaj's lecture, and he was talking about how what a great man does, like a normal common man will follow, right? Because that's the association of Age of Kali. What other great, like a great man does, a common man and other common men around him will follow that. And so I was thinking that there's like actually no great man in this Age of Kali, because it's Kali Yuga. So all the so-called great men are just like artists, singers, chandalas, like people who are like Shudra industry. And so like that is what is referred to in the Soviet society as a great man. And so people look up to them, because they're great, and so great. And so that got me thinking that like that quote, that's not even like in this Age of Kali cannot even be utilized, because there's no such thing as a great man in this Age of Kali. And so yeah, and everybody's just following the footsteps of these so-called people, and they're just leading to the downfall in this Age of Kali Yuga. Yeah. And
so, yes, go ahead, Asra.
No, go ahead. I think I finished that one.
Yeah, very, very good point you bring about, Asra. So that is what so that is what in 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, if you look at it, there is a verse, and that verse, the essence of that verse is that the spiritualist sees with a different vision, and a materialist, for him the success is different, and the same thing, success for a spiritualist is a different. For a spiritualist, the success is chanting the glories of the holy names of the Lord, getting connected to the Lord, performing service to the Lord. And as opposed, success for a materialist is that getting name, fame, money, becoming popular, becoming proud of, or having millions of dollars on their bank account. That is the success for a materialist. And the vision of both of them are completely different. For us, our vision is to serve the Lord. And for that, our role models are the sadhus. We have so many great Maharajas, Jayapataka Maharaj, Radhanath Maharaj, so many people that inspire us in Krishna consciousness through their Krishna Katha, through their activities. So for us, our role models are them. And that is the that may look contrary to the others, because there are two different sets of peoples. One is the set of materialists, another is the spiritualist. For him, the vision is different. For us, the vision is different. And the materialist may think of us, and he might look to say, oh, this person, he chants every time, and he chants and spends and wastes his time. Doesn't utilize his time properly. That is what a materialist may think about us. But unless we understand the vision is different, this materialist vision has to become spiritualized. And that is why this ignorance has to go away. And that is why we are spreading this knowledge of Krishna consciousness to all. And eventually, hopefully, everybody gets into this process. That is what is Srila Prabhupada's vision also. But we should not be taken away by the materialist vision and follow them. I hope it helped you. I don't know. I was just talking about it from 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and there's a correlation there.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I like the class. The 3 takeaway points were the repetition, the purification system, and then the revelation of so then how we change and that. And so association is a key to like even when the repetition stage, purification stage, revelation key, association is a big key, whether it's just association of people or things related to Krishna consciousness, it'll be good.
Very nice. Thank you, Krishna Chaitanya. Very good listening. So Lakshmi has a question. I often face this issue when sometimes something doesn't go the way I thought, like I'm not able to perform well in studies. I'm not able to think connecting it to Krishna. Yes, very, very nice question, Lakshmi. So what you have to do is you have to perform your task. Whatever the task is, you perform it to a fullest extent. Whatever that extent is, you perform that task, complete that task, and leave the results to Krishna. Whatever Krishna has to give you, he will give you. Don't worry about the results. The results are not in our hands. Leave it to Krishna, and whatever he provides, get that as a, whatever he provides, get that. That's all. But you don't expect for the fruits. That is why we need to stay detached. As much as we stay detached to the results, so less will be the anxiety. If I start to think, how am I going to present the class? How am I going to talk to the kids? How am I going to interact with them? Am I going to perform well or not? So what I think of is, I do it as a service to Krishna. I put in my endeavor. I know what subject I'm going to talk about. All that I do preparation on my end, but I don't expect for the results. If I start to expect my results, then I will get into anxiety mode. We should never be attached to the fruits. That is why Krishna says, do Nishkama Karma Yoga, be detached from the results, which is what Bhagavad Gita stresses over and over and over. He says, don't worry about the results, leave the results to me, but do your endeavor. That way, you're not bound to the results. Okay, whatever results come, it is due to Krishna's mercy, we get the result. It can be a good result, favorable result, or it can be an unfavorable result. If it is an unfavorable result, then we have to think, okay, now that this is the result, what am I supposed to do in terms of the next action? Okay, accordingly, like how the GPS reroutes its direction, we have to reroute. Because it is unfavorable, we need to reroute. If it is favorable, no problem. Krishna's mercy, we got that, no problem. Either ways, I'm staying detached to the results. It's up to Krishna and Krishna's mercy. That's all. Did I answer your question, dear Lakshmi? I didn't hear from you. Is it okay?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Okay, kids, any further questions or anything that you would like to share?
Hare Krishna Mataji, one more thing. But it's just a realization. I don't think it's directly related to this, but there was one book that I was reading by Satsuru Maharaj, and it was talking about how envious, like, I guess I like to collect as much information as I can of atheists. So, like, you know, if you ever get in an argument with them, they're like good sources to use from Prabhupada's books. And there was one quote that, like, Prabhupada was saying how atheists, you should use logic to try to like prove God exists, right? But Prabhupada states that we get our logic from the Shastras. Like, that's how we get our logic, because there has to be some source to back up your logic. So we get our logic from the Shastras, obviously. And the atheists, they don't have anywhere to get their logic because they themselves already believe that God doesn't exist. And their logic, or whatever, their science or whatever they think, they have no source to back it up. And so basically their logic is just out of envy. Even science doesn't defy God's existence, because if you go in like science, there's so many theories about God's existence and if God exists or not. So even science doesn't defy God's existence. So they can't even use science to back up their theory that God does not exist. So like basically their logic is just on the base of envy. Like they'll say, oh, God doesn't exist. Where's your proof in that? Where's your source that God doesn't exist? Are you just saying that because you're envious? Where's the logic behind that, you know? And then, but we say God exists. Why? Because we have because they came directly from Krishna. And so that makes a lot of sense. But like, they'll be like, oh, how can you believe in the Shastras? They're so old. By the time they're old, like now it doesn't even make sense. Again, where is your logic? Where do you just know that by heart, or are you just making that up out of envy? Do you have claims the Shastras are fake, or are you just claiming fake? Are you like, you know, like, are you the one that's right? If you have no source to back up that the Shastras are fake, then why are you saying the Shastras are fake? You have to give evidence that they're fake. Because we have evidence that it's real because it's right in front of us. We read it. So why are you saying it's, you know, like, so I guess the logic of envious people, or their perception, is always like out of envy. They don't have any actual logic to give to you. I just thought that was very interesting.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Asra. That was a brilliant point. I really loved the discussion that they were having also. Anybody else? Are we all good? Okay, it was a beautiful session, dear kids. Thank you so much. It was very active participation by all of you all. You all listened very nicely. Thank you so much, bringing out a lot of questions also. Really, that way, whatever you have in your mind, you know, you just can share with me, ask questions whenever I come, and we can discuss through it. And thank you for the opportunity, Anjana Gopika Mataji. Really appreciate it. Mataji, are you on? Can we adjourn for today?
Yes. Thank you so much, Mataji. It was very nice interaction and nice
Thank you.
information to the kids.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I just have like one realization. This is Anshu. So I like how you were saying that like this human form of life is really important. Like it's really important for you to be in Krishna consciousness when you're having this human life.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anshu, for bringing out that realization. Very nice to talk to you again. Very nice to hear your voice. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, dear. So we can all adjourn by saying the prayers. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhye vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Anjana Gopika Mataji. Hari Bol. Thank you, dear kids. Bye-bye. I'll see you all next
Thank you
week.
everyone for joining. Thank you. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Hari